If your car battery does not hold a charge, even if you charge it and the next day it's dead again, it's possible that you have a called a parasitic draw, a current draw, that it is actually draining the battery slowly over time. So like overnight, it will be dead. And I'm going to show you that this car does have a parasitic draw and ways that you can check to see what systems in the car may be still engaged in drawing power when they shouldn't be, or maybe faulty or something. So the first thing is to put your meter into current measuring mode, or amps mode. And I say that because almost any meter that's able to measure amps, you have to specifically move the positive probe to another location, and that's because all of the settings operate using very similar electronics except for amps. With amps, it actually allows all of the current to flow through the two probes, and it connects the circuit, so they actually are electrically connected to each other. And that's very important to know, because if you were to flip it into volts mode and try to measure the volts on the voltage of the battery, you would actually short circuit all that current through the meter and pop the fuse. If it didn't have a fuse, it could do worse, or you might damage other electronics that you're working with. So you definitely want to always keep the probe in the voltage, or the general or the not amps location whenever you're not using amps. So just move it back whenever you're done. Alright, I'm going to pop off the negative terminal, and the meter is going into amps mode. I have the probe moved, and I'm just going to touch the two. The first thing is to listen or watch for a spark, because if it's sparking whenever the car is off, that means that there is some kind of current flowing. Okay, we have a spark, and our meter says 1 amp. That means it's time to now go through the fuse box and pull out one fuse at a time as you're watching the meter, and see which fuses contribute to this 1 amp. So you're watching for it to drop from 0.93 to 0.7 or 0.5. You're watching for it to drop, because that means that fuse, when it's in, is conducting current when the car's off. I'm going to start with one fuse and pull it out and see if that changes the display on the meter. Remember, it was at about 1 amp, and 1.2, whoops, it just dropped down. That must be some other, okay, 0.79 it has settled down to, and that is lower than 1, so that's almost 20% lower, and whatever this fuse belongs to, that system is drawing power when the car's off. According to the label, the first fuse, which is the one that I pulled, is air conditioning. So there's something going on with the air conditioning, and it's drawing just a little trickle even when the car is off. That fuse number 1 only contributed about 20%, so there's still some other stuff going on in here. I just pulled fuse number 2. We can now check that. And as I'm measuring, there does appear to be an initial load that draws more current, and then it jumps down to about 1. And with fuse number 2 pulled, it is still at 1 amp or 0.93, which is what it was sitting at before. So fuse number 2 is not drawing any current. After going through all of the remaining fuses, we found that fuse number 15 was drawing some current, and that is the instrument gauge cluster navigation, which I'm not totally sure what all that includes. It might be a GPS, that sounds like navigation, or maybe a G4 sensor or something, I don't know. And then 39 is the radio. So was the radio left on and that's what killed the battery, or maybe there's something else going on with the radio? I don't know. So there are a lot of fuses for sure, and I'd recommend, like, if you're doing this, so on some cars the battery might be close enough to the fuse box that the wires of your multimeter will reach to the fuse box and you can do it by yourself. If not, it will be good to have someone to help you as you pull the fuses, and so have somebody check the meter as you pull the fuses. The final thing is, you shouldn't expect to be able to get all the way down to zero amps, because there are a few things like the clock that will be running all the time and are sort of it's about half an amp of current that's normal. But if you see anything more than half an amp, then that's when you need to start going through and pulling fuses.